Hello and welcome to the webinar. We're going to be talking about the measurement of sales performance against targets in Salesforce.com. I'm your host, Gary Smith. I'm the Chief Executive of the Gary Smith Partnership, and I'm delighted to say that alongside me here is Nick Ambrose. Nick's one of our senior Salesforce.com consultants. So welcome to the webinar, Nick.
Good afternoon. Welcome, everyone.
Thanks very much indeed for giving me a hand on the webinar. So we're going to be talking about targets and how you measure targets in Salesforce. There's probably not a salesperson on earth who doesn't expect to be measured against a target. In fact, most salespeople will find a realistic target highly motivating. So companies want to measure targets against the salesperson and probably against the sales team. And in fact, many companies will want to measure targets against regions or global territories or different countries and so on. And of course, many companies will want to measure their overall sales performance against the company target. In fact, many companies will have a baseline target, and they'll also have a stretch target, and they'll want to measure sales performance against both of those figures. And indeed, many companies that have lots of different product categories or product families, then they'll want to measure revenue against those individual product families. But there is a problem. There is no target tab in Salesforce.com. So how do you measure targets against sales performance against targets in Salesforce? We're going to show you how to do it. In fact, we're going to show you 3 different ways to measure sales against targets in Salesforce. We're going to cover a simple dashboard gauge. We're going to look at the forecast tab, and Nick, I'll get you to demonstrate that. It's quite a sophisticated piece of functionality. And we're also going to look at a custom solution that many of our customers have implemented as well. So we'll demonstrate each of these 3 methods. But to my mind, there is a bit more to it than simply measuring sales performance against a target. The ability to measure how well we did last month is quite interesting. But we got impact last month, we got influence the behavior, and we got influence the sales performance for last month. We can only influence the present and the future. So we want to measure the target against the current period, the current month, or the current quarter. But of course, if we're midway through the month, or in fact if we're at the early stages of the month, then the question of whether or not we will hit our target is a function of, well, how much have we already won, and what's the size of our pipeline? Do we have enough pipeline? Do we have enough funnel to make our target? Bearing in mind some of that pipeline, we will win some and we'll lose some. But is the pipeline big enough to make our sales target? And of course, when we think about next month or next quarter, there is no closed one. We haven't got to next month yet. It's all pipeline. So the question of whether or not the pipeline, whether or not the funnel is big enough to meet our target becomes absolutely crucial. Because if the funnel is big enough, then key focus, the primary focus of our behavior can be on closing those deals that we've already got in the pipeline. But if the funnel isn't big enough, then yes, we've got to close the deals that are in the funnel, but it really means we've got to find new pipeline, new funnel. And that certainly would influence our behavior, influence the behavior of the team. So we need to answer that question of, is there enough funnel, is there enough pipeline to meet our revenue target for this quarter, for this month, and for the next month as well. And that's what we'll try to cover in this webinar. So, without further ado, Nick, if you're ready as well, then we'll cut over to Salesforce and we'll demonstrate the first of those ways, the dashboard gauge.
Well, hello and welcome to the webinar. We're going to be talking about targets and the measurement of targets in Salesforce.com. I'm your host, Gary Smith. I'm the Chief Executive of the Gary Smith Partnership. I'm delighted to say here alongside me is Nick Ambrose. Nick, welcome to the webinar. Thanks very much indeed for joining us.
Good afternoon.
And you were telling me earlier you're ready to rumble with targets. So we're going to demo a number of different ways to measure targets in Salesforce. There's probably not a salesperson on earth who doesn't expect to be measured by some form of target. We want to measure salesperson's target, individual rep targets, and in most organizations we're going to want to measure team targets or regional targets. In many companies also, we want to measure sales performance against the company target. So how much revenue did we generate against the company target? Indeed, in some companies, it's not just the baseline or the budget company target, but some companies will have a stretch target as well. And they want to measure revenue against that stretch target. So we're going to try and show you ways to do that. But one issue is there is no target tab in Salesforce. So how do you do some of these things? And that's really what we're going to show you. I'm going to show you 3 ways to measure sales against target in Salesforce. To my mind, it is more than just tracking revenue against historical target. It's quite interesting to know what our revenue was against the target for last month. But we can't impact last month, we can't influence the past, obviously. It's useful to know our revenue against our target for this month. But what we also want to do is measure the revenue against our target for future months or this quarter or perhaps the remainder of the year, because that way we can influence it. If we know whether our funnel, whether our sales pipeline is big enough to meet a future target, then we can use that information to influence behavior and drive our priorities. If we know we've got enough funnel to meet next month's target, then the principal thing we need to do is close the deals that we've already got. If we haven't got enough funnel to meet next month's target, then clearly we do need to close the deals that we have got, but we need more funnel as well. So whilst we do both of those things, it's really having that information about whether we've got enough funnel, whether we've got enough pipeline will influence future behavior as well. So that's what we'll try and show you in the webinar now. So a couple of housekeeping things first. On the you can ask questions as we go along. If you look in the go to webinar box that'll be on your screen, there's a little link there called for asking questions. So click on that and type in your questions. We do have everybody on mute just for the benefit of cutting out the background noise, but ask your question and we will do our best to answer. In fact, we won't leave any questions behind, but we might not answer it there and then. We might want to come back to it later on. We are recording this, so we will we publish the. I'll show you at the end where we're going to publish it. It'll be on our blog post, and we'll send you a link out to the recording of the webinar when we've finished. I think that's pretty much it. Are we ready to rock? People can you can also minimise. There's a little white arrow in a red bar on the screen. So if you click on that, it will minimise the GoToWebinar and just enlarge the screen as well. So we're going to turn. What we'll do is we'll turn the webcam off just while we're doing the demos and so on. That will enlarge the enlarge Salesforce, enlarge the screen on your end, and give us a little bit more room to work with as well. But what we will do is we will take you through these 3 different ways of measuring targets in Salesforce. Simple dashboard gauge, so we'll show you that first. We look at the forecast tab, and Nick, you're going to do that. We'll show people how to use the forecast tab and how that works. And we'll show you a custom solution that we've implemented for a number of our customers as well, and how that can help you measure targets and measure future. Understand that issue of whether you have enough funnel in the pipeline to meet the target. So, without further ado, I think we are ready to go. So, here's the dashboard that we've created, and here's an example of the way in which a dashboard gauge can be used to measure targets in Salesforce. This solution, or this approach, has one fantastic advantage. It's simple. It's simple and it's easy to set up, and it gives you a crystallized piece of information about how you're doing against your target. The biggest disadvantage of this approach is it's really simple and it only tells you a limited amount of information. But let's take an example. Let's take here, over on the left-hand side, this is the value of deals that we've won against our target for this month. And I've got here this quarter, this year, etc. This is the value of deals that we've won so far this month. And you can set the parameters, you can easily set the parameters. I'll show you how in just one second, but you can easily set the parameters of red, green, and amber. And underlying this dashboard gauge is a report. So there's the report for the value of deals closed closed one this month, and we can see that value here. So it's just a basic report. It's an opportunity report, just displayed on the dashboard with a dashboard gauge. And we can use that. We can modify the settings on the dashboard gauge. So we can go into the gauge itself, click on the spanner, and we can say, well, actually, I don't want that to be 400. I want that to be 5 for the first cutoff. So you can see there quite easily I've modified the settings for the gauge. Now, if I had to implement a solution this afternoon, then that's the approach I would take. I would just create a simple report and I'd display it on the dashboard using the gauge like we showed. It's not a particularly scalable solution though. So in terms of in terms of tracking the revenue against an individual month, quite an effective piece of information. It doesn't tell us anything about the pipeline. It doesn't really tell us anything about whether we've got enough funnel. So let's say we're behind our target for this month. Do we have enough pipeline deals to meet the target? Well, we could probably add weighted, that we could have another gauge with a weighted pipeline and so on. But it's kind of not it's displaying the key information, but it's only displaying really one piece of information. If I wanted to display this chart for every single salesperson, I'd have to create a gauge for every single salesperson. And if the targets were different, or if the targets moved from one month to another, in other words, it's 500,000 for this month, and 600 for the next month, and 450 for the month after that, I've got to go in and I've got to reset the dashboard component for each one of those months. But it might well be worth doing that. It's a simple approach. To my mind, it works best. It works best when you've got a relatively short period of time for your target, because the chart alongside shows that whether or not we're meeting the Quotas target. So yeah, that's good. You can see that we've moved the dial has moved through the process. But when we look at the chart for this year, then we're going to spend quite a lot of time in the red before we even get anywhere near the amber and green. And we might not achieve that until October, November, December, or if at all, for example. So you have to be cognizant of the potential demoralizing effect it might have in that way. So in terms of using the gauge for a short period of time, it can be very effective. We actually use it in my own business. We track our we have a custom object called invoices in our Salesforce instance, and pretty much we know how much it costs to run the business. It's a fairly static amount each month. It doesn't change a huge amount from one month to the next. So we have this. We have a dashboard gauge that tracks the value of our invoices against a figure that we don't really change much from one month to another, and it gives us a very quick ready reckoner about how we're doing with our revenue against our costs from one month to another. So simple, but not to be decried, none the worse for that, and potentially in quite a good way of measuring targets, measuring sales against targets. So that's one way to do it, the dashboard gauge. Nick, do you want to take over, and do you want to show? It's going to show us a much more sophisticated, is that the right word? Much more sophisticated way of measuring targets and sales revenue. It's going to use the forecast tab. So Nick, take over and just tell us about the forecast tab.
Great, thanks, Gary. Yeah, like Gary said, the forecast tab in Salesforce is a lot more sophisticated. It would generally be used for companies that have quite a mature Salesforce and have a high level of user adoption already. It's quite a lot of maintenance, but we'll talk you through it now. So when we come into the forecast tab, basically we get presented with David Atfork here. He's our VP of Sales and Marketing. He's a logged in user. So what we're seeing here is his forecast, as well as his direct reports as well. So we've got a couple of direct reports here in John Davies and Sean Yates. So what we're looking at is his forecast for the year ahead. We're working on a monthly forecast period, as you can see. Equally, we could be forecasting by financial quarters if we wish to. So that's just a simple settings piece that we would change. And what we're presented really with over the top, which is what we're ultimately here for, is the 4 different forecast categories, which consist of a roll-up of the opportunities within each period. So we'll just talk you through them quickly. So we've got closed only, commit forecast, best case forecast, and open pipeline. And how these categories work is a roll-up of the opportunities within each period. So for the 12-month period, we're looking here at the opportunities that have closed within the year to date. Commit is closed with negotiation, and the way that these opportunities link to the forecast category is through the opportunity stage. So we map this through the opportunities fields setup. So we have 5 or 6 opportunity stages depending on how your company tracks the stages to the sales process, and then we link those to one of these 4 forecast categories. So the good thing is these are all customizable, so if you don't use the term commit forecast or best case forecast, you can easily adapt this as well. So another couple of things to bear in mind with the forecast categories is that we can have them displayed as an individual amount, or we could equally have them as cumulative. So what we've got them set here is cumulative, so we've got closed only. If we hover over here, this tells us how the categories are presented to us. So if we click on the commit forecast, what we can see is that it's a roll-up from the opportunities in commit plus the opportunities in closed. And equally, best case forecast, we've got closed, commit, best case, and then our open pipeline is basically anything other than closed. So we've got a couple of options here just to make the page a little bit easier to navigate. So we're going to go over here and just focus on the current quarter. We're in the last day of June, so let's make sure we're definitely going to hit our quota for this month. Okay, so we're just going to have a look at April, and we're going to go to June. Okay. Right, now we've got our forecast for the period, for the current financial quarter now, so a bit more of a focused view. But what we're not showing at the moment is our quotas. So what we really want to know is what are we trying to hit for these periods, and what are our individual salespeople trying to hit as well. So we're going to pop up over here on the right hand side. We've got our display options. And what we can do is we can show the quotas. So we upload these for each user. So I'm just going to show that quota column there.
So the quota is the target, Nick, is that right?
Yeah, so I mean, for the purposes of today, quota, target, budget, all 3 are really interchangeable terms, not meaning to confuse you, but obviously there's a difference in terminology between quota with the standard Salesforce forecast tab, and obviously the target, which is more the terminology we use. It's more the terminology that our customers are familiar with. So yeah, don't be confused by the interchanging terms. Okay, and the other option which we can display here, which is really useful in terms of getting a quick overview in terms of how our performance is going, is we want to put in the quota attainment rate. So immediately we can see that for the current month of June, Dave Apthorpe here is the sales and marketing VP. Him and his direct reports have got a quota of £500,000 for the month. So we're tracking pretty well. We're sitting at 488 for the moment, 97%. We really only need one small deal to tip us over, and we're doing well. What we can see here is we've got a difference between our closed only and our commit forecast. So if we click on this category here, what we really want to do is see which opportunities are sitting within this category, which we can try and close before the end of the month. Make sure we definitely exceed that 500,000 figure. So I'm just going to jump down here on show, which you may have seen earlier on. And what basically this is displaying is all those opportunities which have either a closed or a opportunity stage which falls within the commit forecast category. So negotiation is an opportunity stage which also falls into this category. So that's why we're seeing these 2 opportunities here with a close date within June. And over here on the right hand side we can see who the owner is. So John Davies, he's one of my direct reports. £52,000 opportunity there. That would be enough to get us over the line. I've got an opportunity for £10,000. It's still going to leave us a little bit short. So I'm going to put a lot of attention on this opportunity here.
So really the commit, and in the commit column, Nick, really I guess what you're saying is that it's the deals you've already won, plus those deals really you're saying, trust me, Nick, I'm going to bring this one in.
That's right. So I'm at the final stage of negotiation. I know the deal's there to be done. There might be a few finer points to iron out, but I'm pretty confident that deal's going to go through. Obviously it's within its own category, so as a manager, it's on my radar.
Yeah.
I am tracking it, and they're kind of the deals that I want to be kept the most informed about. Particularly if anything goes sideways, on the last day of the month, or the couple of weeks leading into it. Sorry.
Yeah.
Great. So and what we can also do is we can have a look, at an individual level as well. So here's Sean Yates. Here's another one of my direct reports. So nothing in this category at the moment. But in the best case forecasts, he's got one opportunity here for £100,000, which he's still at the proposal made stage. But knowing Sean, he's a superstar salesman. As his manager, we're sort of obviously tracking his performance through the earlier periods. We'll just have a look and see how Sean did in May. So closed only. So he's exceeding his quota month after month. But what we're noticing is his close dates are quite late in the month. So 29th of the month, and also 30th of the month. So I'm pretty confident that Sean's going to pull that deal through. He's got a history of it. So this is where we can use one of the collaborative forecast features. So what I can do is go and make an adjustment on Sean's forecast here, and what I'm effectively doing is bringing this opportunity through to the commit forecast category, because I'm really confident that he's going to close that opportunity this month. So what I can do is just click on this little pencil here.
So let me see if I've got this right. What you're doing is, as Sean's manager, you're going in and you're actually modifying his forecast. You're really saying, oh, yeah, I actually think he'll bring this in. And I'm adding it to my overall.
Correct. To a point, I'm saying I know better than Sean. I might have some more information about the account that Sean doesn't know, or just obviously based on Sean's prior behaviour.
But you could know he's a notorious sandbagger.
Well, exactly. So keep an eye out for that one as well as a future webinar for us.
Yes.
But so he's a bit of a sandbagger. So what I'm effectively doing here is I'm adjusting his forecast, and I'm going to bring this opportunity for £100,000. I'm going to bring it forward in the sales process, so that it gives us a better idea of what I think is actually going to close this month. So I'm just going to quickly make an override here of 245,000. I'm just going to save that one by clicking the wee tick. Alright, and as we can see, we get the processing changes. So whenever you see these little dials, basically means that Salesforce is just working in the background to update the information. But then obviously I also want to update the commit category as I'm bringing that one through, so I'm going to increase that by 100,000.
Okay, so you'd modify both.
Modify both. That way, just means that we're making sure that I'm effectively moving it from this category to this category here.
Mm-hmm.
So if I save, and then what I can see now is what I can do is just hit this refresh button here, help Salesforce along, speed the process up. Okay. So what that's done is it's increased my commit forecast category now from 650,000. To 650,000 from the 550,000 without the adjustments. So, and if we're ever on these, the category summaries for a given period, whenever we see these little circles, that's basically an indication that we've got an adjustment for that particular period or category. All right. So
and that little circle then, that's telling you that you've made an adjustment. I guess you'd want to be pretty confident that's really your say, because your boss is going to see this. Dave Apthorpe's boss is going to see this. You are the Dave Apthorpe for this purpose. You'd have to be pretty confident that was going to happen.
Exactly. I mean, there's two things to really keep in mind. Is obviously you have to be confident to start making the adjustments. But this is where the collaborative forecast has some great features, but it also introduces further complexity. The adjustments can be enabled at both the manager level or at a owner level. So if we quickly, let's just jump to Sean Yates here. And what we're doing now is we're seeing the forecast as Sean would see it. So Sean's not actually seeing that override that I've just made as his manager. So he's still seeing that he's got 345,000 in the best case and 245,000 in the commit. But as his manager, I can obviously make those overrides.
Okay,
he doesn't necessarily have to see those changes.
So it's not kind of washing it down. It's really, he's still got whatever his roll-up of the opportunities.
Correct.
But I guess in some ways you wouldn't want Sean.
Exactly. I wouldn't want Sean to see my override and know that I'm about to apply a bit of pressure on him to get that deal through for the end of the month.
Right.
But no, it's a good point. The adjustment, they do work on the forecast hierarchy. So obviously, they that for anybody above they that for in the forecast hierarchy would be able to see that adjustment.
Yeah.
So it's a good feature, but in terms of how you're managing and tracking this, you certainly need some good processes in place to make sure that you don't start confusing your actual forecast with the adjustments. Particularly if the adjustments say start getting to quite a high percentage of your quotas for the
I'm sure
month.
you'd want to use that. You don't have to use that the adjustments function, but you'd want to use it judiciously if you do, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, generally you'd be wanting to use it sparingly. Obviously, it's great for managers who, you don't really want the managers in there meddling with the opportunities. You want the owners to really be updating and maintaining those.
Yeah.
I would personally, as a best practice, would not enable adjustments at the owner level, and invariably,
the opportunity owner.
Yeah, the opportunity owner, and invariably what you're doing is enforcing the opportunity owners to make sure that their opportunities are up to date as much as possible, and that's where, as a manager, you're getting your visibility in the pipeline.
Yeah. Nick, I'm just going to pause you for 1 second because I know there's 3 or 4 questions that have been asked as well. So let's just have before we go on, let's just have a look at those. Quick question: when you click on the forecast section. I don't know if that's actually 1 question or 2 questions. When you click on the commit forecast section, why was your team? Are we only seeing part of that question?
I think if I can,
Richard, if you want to just elaborate on your question a little bit, why was your team?
I think if I'm correct in what you're asking, Richard, is when I clicked on the commit forecast section, why were you seeing the closed won opportunities? So it was one of the points that maybe I skipped over a little bit quickly at the start. Is one setting available to us is we can either have the forecast category display as individual amounts. So by that I mean it would always be closed only, commit only. So if we were on individual amounts in the commit forecast, we would not see the opportunities closed won. All we would see is the opportunities with a negotiation opportunity stage status. But what we've done is we've enabled the cumulative forecast setting. So what that does is it has closed won as closed won, and then within the commit forecast we want to see commit and closed. And the reason we do that is sort of as Gary and I touched on, we've got opportunities that are closed and we've got opportunities in commit which we're very confident that are going to come through. So these two here, they're at the final stages of negotiation. We're pretty confident that they're going to come through. So we want our commit category to be sort of as accurate as to what we think is going to come in.
I guess if you're showing the columns individually, you've still got to do a bit of. In some ways, it might be mentally easy, but you've still got to do a bit of mental arithmetic to add up close one and commit. Because the commit is really saying, trust me, Dave, I'm going to bring this deal in.
Yeah.
So you want to add, but it's in negotiation. I'll get it in before the end of the month. You'd have to do that mental arithmetic.
That's right. I mean, with the cumulative, effectively what you can do is use the commit forecast category and the quota column as a comparison. If we had these individually, say for example, test my mental arithmetic now. We've got 1.8 million here, we've got 1.6 million here. So I would need to.
Best part 150.
As individually, this would be say 150,000. As an individual value, I'd have to add that 150,000 onto here manually to, obviously the quotas get exceeded by the closed only. But if the quota was higher, I would have to be doing mental arithmetic all the time.
Yeah. I understand. Well, I don't know if you did it. Thanks, Richard. That was the right question. And I don't know if you deliberately set the data up this way, Nick, but if I was if this was real life and we only had a day or so of the month to go and we were in June, then I guess I'd be a bit concerned about the number of deals that are in the open pipeline. So just remind us, what's the difference between the open pipeline and the best case? It's just opportunity stage, I guess.
Yeah, just opportunity stage, that's right. So, as we can see here, the open pipeline, it's anything with, pipeline, commit, or best case. So it's still not really at the point where we've made, we're really confident that this deal is going to come through. Best case is within the best case column. So pipeline only is just the pipeline prospecting and investigation. Sorry.
Yeah. But if you had and this is a common issue in many cases. If your sales cycle is 2 or 3 months, then time and time again you see these opportunities actually on the very last day of the month are still in prospecting or investigation. They get moved along for next month and moved along and so on. So you did infer, Nick, that we're going to run just as an aside, we're going to run a webinar on the 28th of July, isn't it? And we're going to be looking at sales pipeline quality. So how you know whether you've got a robust pipeline and you can identify these opportunities that seem to roll on forever and never actually seem to get anywhere close. So I won't go into that now, but we have a webinar scheduled on that.
Okay.
And Nick, there's just another question there, just also about multi-currency as well. So how does this look if you're using multi-currency? And I guess really you can answer the question, but I guess you see it in your own personal currency.
Yeah, so you see it in your own personal currency, but if we had multi-currency enabled, so we're just working in pounds here, we would have this down as another displayed option. So we would have a list of currencies here that we have enabled for the org.
Yeah.
And we would be able to select, whether we wanted to see it in pounds or in euros or dollars, and then obviously that would work on your currency settings. So whether we're converting these, on set rates at various stages, or whether we just have a fixed conversion rate which we work off. So again, it's another option, but just probably one really important point. Obviously we've tried to make the demo as simple as possible, given that it is quite a complex tool. But one of the benefits of the forecast tab is that we have the opportunity to forecast by different types. So we have got an opportunity to revenue forecast, which is what we've been looking at today. We've also got the product family revenue. So again, we can forecast by product. These work by the product family, and they pull from the product lines in the opportunity. So the quotas don't have to necessarily be one and the same. So for example, John Davies' quota here of £150,000 at a product level doesn't necessarily need to equal his revenue level quota as well. So there's a few sort of standard types of forecasting types, and we can measure those either by revenue or by quantity. So again, the number of units sold as opposed to revenue.
Yeah. And increasingly we have several companies. We have several manufacturing companies that have individual targets at that product family. To give it a product category, if you're not familiar with sales. I see there's another question there. What was that one? I assume the commit forecast is working off the expected close date set against the opportunity. That's Mark.
Yeah. Again, thanks for that question. So, I mean, again, this is where you need some fairly robust processes in place on how you manage the forecast. There is the ability to set up reports where all you see is the owner amount. So if you say, for example, didn't have owner adjustments enabled, we could run a report just on the owner amount. Or equally, what we would do is have a forecast items report, which is the majority of the forecasting that we've been looking at today, and we would have that paired with opportunities. So it's a custom report. It'd be forecasting in items with opportunities, and that's how we would sort of remove those adjustments from our reporting to make sure that we're looking at the true information. But yes, if we wanted to remove that adjustment, we would have to manually go back through and remove them, or we could move them in bulk. So. Okay. So I think that's a fairly quick introduction to what's quite a complex tool. Obviously, if you've got any more questions, please send them through. And
your previous company used it, didn't you? Where you worked before?
We did use it. I mean, I think we found it was helpful, but again, quite complex. We didn't have the adjustments enabled. We found that it was just a little bit too much maintenance. For the benefit really, and also like I touched on briefly, you really want to put the onus on people to be updating the opportunities, so that way the information which is driving the reports and driving the forecasts tab is as accurate as possible.
Yeah. Good. No, thanks for that. And the information can be displayed on a dashboard.
It can be displayed on a dashboard. So again, you touched on briefly that all the reports for forecasts are custom built. So there's no sort of forecast reports package that can be downloaded. So again, a bit more configuration would need to be sort of fairly fairly well trained on reports to get that up and running and to really sort of make sure the information you're looking at is exactly what you're.
Is there anything you can download from the App Exchange? Any pre-built reports? Any pre-built dashboards?
Not as far as I'm aware at the moment for collaborative forecasts.
Okay, but you can for the other.
You can for the sales dashboard that Gary touched on today. There is a package that can be downloaded from the labs. So that's very quick, easy download and then configure. So making the adjustments in terms of the breakpoints which Gary showed you.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Very good. Nick, thanks for that. So that's the second approach. We looked at dashboard gauge. We looked at forecast tab. Let's have a look at a custom solution.
Yep.
So let us go and so let's start here. Let's click on the dashboard. Actually, we're talking about dashboards. So let me explain how how an alternative solution will work as well. Let's go to the dashboard called Company Target. So here you see a dashboard. Tells us that for this month, that's my figure for the target. That's what I've already won for this month. That's my weighted pipeline. Excuse me. Sorry. That's my weighted pipeline. And that's my expected budget variance. So basically taking into account what I've already won and the value of my weighted pipeline, I actually expect to undershoot the overall the target for this month. Let's have a look at next month. Actually, for next month, well, that's my target. Obviously, I haven't got anything closed won yet. We're doing this webinar as if we were midway or towards the end of June, so I can't have anything closed won in July yet. But I've got quite a bit of weighted pipeline. By weighted pipeline, I mean the value of the opportunity multiplied by the probability of winning that deal. And I'm going to win some, I'm going to lose some, but if things pan out the way that I anticipate them panning out, then that's what I'm going to get to, and I'm going to have a shortfall the next month as well. When I look for a quarter, actually, if I look back in time for April, I actually exceeded my target. I exceeded my target for May as well, but I've got something of a shortfall for June, and that's shown in the monthly chart as well. And actually, when you look at it for the whole year, well, I've got quite a lot of shortfall for October, November, December, etc. But that might be okay if my sales cycle is let's say 2 months. I might be building pipeline for November and December now. So, but that I can see that some months I'm ahead of, I'm scheduled to be ahead of my target, and some months I'm not. So let me show you where that information comes from. Just before I do that, let's just look at this dashboard as well. This is a sales rep dashboard. It's a similar sort of concept. This is with the dashboard for the team. So for this month, that's my target. That's what I've already closed won. So I've got some weighted pipeline there. So actually, I'm projecting to be well ahead of my target. You see, I'm projecting to be for the team level to be underneath my target there. And I've got various other pieces of information that tell me, for example, for this month, how are different individual people doing. And it's taking really the target, what I've won, my weighted pipeline, and therefore projecting where I'm going to be in relation to my target. So where on earth does that information come from? Well, let's just click on this tab here. So we've got an object in the system called company target, and well, let's pick the June one. Let's just have a look at that. So this is an individual record for target record for June 2015. You can see that my target, beg your pardon, seeing that my target is 700,000, and I've so far won 488,000. I've got pipeline 367. The weighted value of that pipeline is 130k. My total expected revenue is what I've already won, plus the weighted pipeline, which in this case is 618k. Where does that information come from? Well, that information is coming from here. If I scroll down to the bottom of the screen, you will see that there's a whole bunch of opportunities. Now, each of these opportunities has a
close date of June 2015. And that's good because we're looking at the target for June 2015. You can see that they are in different stages. I've got 17 of them in total. So basically what happens is whenever an opportunity is created or when an opportunity is adjusted, there's a piece of background code that says, right, okay, I've got a close date here for June. I need to go and link it to the June target. And if we were to take that opportunity and move it to July, then it would unhook from this target and move on to the following target. In fact, if I just scroll back down, I'll just demonstrate that. So let's take that opportunity there, the edge emergency generator. In fact, what I'll do is I'll just put an asterisk into the name so we can easily spot it, and I'll move it to July, let's say. So I'm moving that to, all I'm doing there is just moving the close date to July. If we go back to, you can see there now, that opportunity has unhooked itself from the June target, and if we went to look at the July target, we'd find it on there. So there's also been a corresponding slight shift in our pipeline values and the weighted value. That's a pipeline opportunity. So actually, the impact of doing that is to actually project that we'll be slightly below our target for this month. So really what we're doing is we're taking the value, there's a target, which we're rolling up the value of opportunities that fall into June, July, August, September, or what have you. We're taking the total pipeline, the weighted pipeline, and therefore we can calculate the total expected revenue, the weighted pipeline plus the one value. And actually we're calculating the closed loss amount. So those opportunities that have a close date for June, but we haven't won, we've set them already to close lost. And of course, doing those things allows us to calculate a number of metrics. So our target achieved in this case is 79, to be precise, it's 79.881%. Our pipeline is our pipeline as a percentage of that target is 38%. But actually, the weighted pipeline is only 17%. So we are projecting that we'll have a target variance of 91%, sorry, 91,000, which is 13%. So, quite a useful piece of information. Let me elaborate a bit more on how this sort of thing gets used. There's a couple of charts that you can see below there. So that's telling me for this particular month, how am I faring, and there's my target variance. But of course, achieving the target or maximizing my revenue depends on me closing some of this weighted pipeline. So what do I know about that weighted pipeline? Well, what I know is here over on the right hand side. Well, actually, a stack of it is in negotiation. That's pretty good. I'm trying to close it in the last few days of the month. Some of it is in proposal made, so I might be start to get a little bit concerned about that. And a whole chunk of it is in investigation. Well, depending on your sales cycle, that might be fine, or it might not be fine if your typical sales cycle is 2 or 3 months, for example. So it starts to give you some insight on whether or not I'm close to meeting my target. If the weight based on the weighted pipeline. Bear in mind, I'm going to win some deals, I'm going to lose some deals. But obviously, when I start to look at that pipeline, how am I faring? How confident do I feel in that pipeline as well? And actually, the answer there would be not particularly. But we also capture a number of other pieces of information. You can see that we capture conversion rate, etc. So for June, I've got 6 won opportunities. I've got 4 lost opportunities. So I've still got 6 in the pipeline. So that 16 is the same as my opportunities there, and I can calculate the record count and the conversion rate by the number and the conversion rate by dollar or pound note or whatever currency you happen to be using. So that's the figure that's the company target for June. Let's have a look at the company target for let's pick August. By way of example, so here my closed won value is 0. Well, that's what I'd expect. I've got a pipeline of 1.3 million, nearly 1.4 million, and my weighted value of that pipeline is 733,000. So that's good.
because it's what I'm saying is I've got an excess. Assuming I bring those deals in line with the probability that they currently are, then I'm going to exceed my target. So it's an example of when I think about August. Well, actually, I've got enough funnel. I've got enough pipeline. I don't really need more funnel. It'd be good if I had more funnel, certainly. But actually, if I close those deals out in August, those deals that are due to close in August, if I close them out, then I'm going to be ahead of the game. I'm going to exceed my target. So that's one way that you can start to use that information at the company level. Let's just have a look at an individual salesperson. So let's pick, since he's up here, let's pick on Dave Lapthorpe. So here's Dave's equivalent. This is the equivalent for an individual sales rep. This is what it looks like for an individual sales rep. So again, I'm looking at June 2015. So Dave's target is 93k. Sorry, let me say that again. Dave's target is 100k. He's won 93. He's got pipeline of 15. His weighted pipeline is 8.5. So his total expected revenue is that 102 figure. In other words, it's the 93.7 he's already won, and the weighted pipeline of 8.5 would give him 102. So he's projecting that he's going to exceed his target by a couple of thousand there. So that's good. And we've got the equivalent percentage information over on the right hand side. We can see that in that month of the deals that have been closed, he's won 3, he's lost 2. So his conversion rate in terms of record count is 60%, but actually his dollar rate conversion is fractionally under 37%. So it would imply he's lost a couple of high value deals in that process. In fact, we can see those deals here as well. So we've got, we can go in and look at those individual deals as well. Let's pick another figure. Let's pick another month for Dave. Let's go to August again for Dave. So now we're in August. Now, what's this one telling us? So this is really saying he's got 75, he's got a pretty big pipeline, and actually his weighted pipeline is 79k. So again, he's looking quite solid. Now, I'm actually just going to manipulate that piece of data and just make it a bit tougher for Dave, just to show you. Let's change that to 85,000. Let's give the page time to refresh. You can see there now he's got a shortfall of 5,500. Now, if I'm looking at this, if I hadn't just manipulated that information, I'd just come to the opportunity, come to the target figure like this. So what has Dave got to do now? Well, actually, what it's saying is they've got a problem in that your pipeline, your funnel for August isn't big enough, because if you win your opportunities based on what we know typically happens, based on the opportunity probabilities, then actually you're going to be slightly short of your target. In fact, we can go, again, we can go over and look at that and say, well, we need obviously to move some of these deals along, but we know that we're going to win some and we know that we're going to lose some. So Dave's issue here really is his pipeline isn't big enough. So what would he do about that? Well, actually, let me just quickly show you. I will just create an opportunity. So I'm logged in as Dave. Let's just go quickly create an opportunity. First, bit of a close date for August. Call it proposal made. That will do. And we'll add a product to it. Let's choose a standard price book. So let's just quickly add a product to that opportunity. So now, if we go back to Dave's sales tab, there's the bit of code working in the background. You can see that the code, we normally wouldn't have those. You'd probably leave those fields off from a user point of view, but we've got them on at the moment. You can see that's been linked to the August target, and
So we can start to see what Dave needs to do to track his pipeline. So he still needs to boost the weighted value of his pipeline in order to achieve his target. So he's still showing some sort of shortfall in there. So he still needs more funnel in order to achieve his target for that month. So you get the idea how it works. Basically, we typically have an object company sales target. It doesn't need to be called company sales target. It can be called called whatever you want, or a rep sales target. And the piece of code in the background links those opportunities based on the close date, based on the opportunity owner in the case of the rep sales target as well. So we only want to see Dave's. Opportunities on Dave's target figure. So that's an indication of how it works. I'll just answer a couple of questions just before I show you one or two other aspects and the flip on the products target as well. So have you looked at Microsoft Excel, Power BI for Salesforce? Actually, so that's a question about other tools and the reporting tools. Not a huge amount. The reason is that the reason we've built our custom solution without using other tools is because we want it to be native to Salesforce. So you're spending enough money on Salesforce licenses already, so without having to try and spend too much more on other apps. But I wholly acknowledge there are some very powerful tools out there that can offer further analysis of the pipeline and so on. But we've tried to keep it native to Salesforce. And my experience is really, if you can get people using targets and measuring targets in Salesforce, that's a really massive driver of user adoption. If I can see my target and I can track my performance against that, it's a big driver of user adoption. The conversion rates on sales targets, are you looking at that conversion rate for that particular month only, or does it look at historical data? There's often a lot of confusion about how conversion rate should be calculated in Salesforce. You shouldn't look at the pipeline. Really, what should happen is, for calculating conversion rate in June, I should look at opportunities that have been set closed won in June or closed lost in June. If I'm looking at the conversion rate for July or April, I only want to see deals that have closed in April or been closed lost in April. So there might be deals that kind of wash through the pipeline. The conversion rate, whether you calculate it in record count or pound notes or dollars, then just for those deals that are closed in that month. We do also have a number of customers that are using this type of solution really to track products targets. Let's just pick one. So that's the product target for product family of maintenance contracts. It's one happens to be for August 2015. You say the month target for maintenance contracts is 180k, and again the same sort of thing. You get the idea that there's that certain pipeline amount, weighted pipeline, and so on. In this case, you don't see opportunities here. What you do see are opportunity products. So these opportunities these products could actually be attached to different opportunities. But what we're really looking for is opportunities that have a close date in August and where they have a product that's associated, that is of a maintenance contract type, where the product family is maintenance contract. So if we were looking at the equivalent record for generators, then we would see only generator product line here, or consumables or training products or whatever it might be. But you get the idea that it picks up the product line item and adds that to the relevant product target. Speaking of maintenance contracts, we do have several customers who use this type of thing, because a maintenance contract is obviously revenue over a period of time. And actually, what you want to calculate is the scheduled revenue associated with this product and link that to a target record. We also have a company in the construction industry whose projects
typically last sort of 5 or 6 years. So on the opportunity, they schedule out a whole stream of revenue. So they use the concept of this sort of target, they use rep and they use company target, but it's actually the scheduled revenue, not the kind of upfront gross value of the opportunity that's linked to their target. And that allows them to project, well, how am I going to do in March 2017? Well, I've got a certain amount of scheduled revenue, something which would be in the pipeline, something which would be closed won revenue for that. So that's an overview of an alternative way of managing targets. There's another question about Sarah. Can you pull in orders? Okay. Can you pull in orders from Microsoft Dynamics and link them to a target? Okay. The answer is the answer actually is yes. We have a number of customers that pull in orders either on a daily or weekly basis. Dr. Martin's is one that springs to mind, where they are pulling in orders that retailers have placed on their ERP system, and they are pushed into Salesforce on a daily basis. Now, like many other customers, many other organizations, I don't know, 80% of their revenue comes from 20% of their retailers, or whatever the proportion is. And what they do is they have not so much a sales rep target, or indeed a company target. What they have is an account target. So there are key accounts, they're strategic accounts. Those accounts have a target. There's a lot of accounts, 80% of the accounts, that don't have a target. What happens is there's a bit of background code. When the order comes in, the background code says, this order, the account to which it's linked, does that account have a target for this month? If yes, link it to the account and link it to the target for that account for that month. If no, link it to a generic target that that account owner has for all of those, like almost a slush target, if you like, to link it to that generic target. So as a user, my total target is a combination of my account target and my other single target that I use for all other accounts as well. So just before I think we've covered the key things, just in the interest of time, we've covered the key things from a demo point of view. Just bear with us, and we'll try to put the webcam back on, Nick. We've got a couple of other questions as well. There we go. So another question is, are there various ways to mash the sources together? Okay. So Jen, another question about the use of external tools and potentially bringing Microsoft Excel into play as well. I think there are. We haven't particularly explored those sort of tools. Again, we try to keep it native to Salesforce. So that's pretty much it. Nick, thanks very much indeed for your help. A few things before we finish. When you close out the webinar, you will get a survey. So there's a survey that I think there's 5 or 6 questions actually. It would be hugely beneficial to us if you would answer those questions. That provides us with inspiration and encouragement to work harder and create the sort of content that is useful to you. And of course, it helps us define that content. So tell us the sort of material that would be helpful to you going forward as well. A couple of other things. If you've enjoyed the webinar and you found it useful, on our website there are a couple of blogs on this subject. So, for example, we've written a blog, is your sales funnel big enough to meet your revenue target? We've got another blog post which actually answers the question, what are the 3 ways to manage targets in Salesforce? So, clearly very welcome to go and have a look at those as well. The best way to get in touch with us is via our website, and you can go to the Contact Us page and click on that and fill in the form, or you can email me. My email address is gary@garysmithpartnership.com. So easy enough to remember, gary@garysmithpartnership.com. So I'll be delighted to hear from you. If our technology has worked, we've done a recording. So hopefully we've recorded this webinar. We might cut out a little bit of coughing and spluttering and so on, at least from me. And we'll cut that out, and we will send out a link to everybody who's joined the webinar, and we'll send that out in the next day or so. And we'll post it on our blog, and you'll be very welcome to have a look at that. As I say, if you'd like to get in touch with us, go via web or just email me. So, Nick, thanks very much indeed for helping me with this. In particular, thank you for joining and for taking the time to join us on this webinar. Next one we'll do will be on pipeline quality and how you measure how you understand whether you shoot down the lame ducks from your sales pipeline. So there you go, that's a good time. So, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.